So we just had the Nintendo Direct wrap up actually a few minutes ago, and I'm sitting here kind of looking back on the different games. I wrote down every single one of them, and we'll go through it line by line, each announcement tomorrow morning in Newswave. But I kind of wanted to stop and think about this for a second, because I feel like what we just saw with the Direct told us a lot about Nintendo's plans for 2024, specifically for their next system. And I want to talk a little bit about that here today. So if you guys enjoy the video, make sure you hit the like button and subscribe if new here to the Spawn Wave channel. So looking back on the Direct, they announced a number of games, but they definitely had a specific focus. Really, they focused in on games that they've already announced. I mean, really, if you think about it, showing Princess Peach Showtime again. They announced it before, but just went more in depth with it here. Also, Luigi's Mansion 2 HD, very creative name, by the way, there, Nintendo. And their big thing at the end that I feel like saved the Direct for a lot of people, kind of myself included, is Paper Mario The Thousand Year Door, of course, a GameCube game that they are remastering and bringing up to the Switch. People looked at that and weren't really seeing that as a good announcement. I actually think that this is like the right time to do it if they're going to do it. There's a chance they just were never going to remaster this game and just continue on the path that they have with Paper Mario that has deviated away from what they had with the Thousand Year Door. It's still a game that people look back on as the best one in the entire franchise, right? I think it's a good time to do it because you're in this in-between period, and I feel like that's what Nintendo really showed us, is that many of their bigger developers internally are just working on games for the next system. Like, so much so that they are heavily relying at this time on smaller games as well as like remasters and remakes, that sort of thing, right? The biggest game I feel like they would have shown here would have been Princess Peach Showtime in terms of like an original game. Whereas, again, you see Luigi's Mansion 2 HD, of course, that being a remaster of the 3DS game, and then Paper Mario being from the GameCube. F-Zero 99, that's kind of creative as well, but that's still leaning into the idea of we're going to use basically the Super Nintendo game, bring it up, and do a fun little twist on it to where it's F-Zero 99, which that's out actually in a little bit. I'm going to have to check that one out because I'm curious how that actually works in practice. But I did notice that many other people had kind of caught on to this with the Direct, because if you look up and down the announcements, I get it why a lot of people are just looking at this like, well, it was something. There were definitely games there. I didn't go into this Direct going, I really hope Unicorn Overlord is there. But looking at some of the games coming up for the rest of this year and then starting out 2024, there are titles to look forward to. I think the biggest disappointment for people is that the new DK game that was rumored is Mario vs. Donkey Kong. Not that it couldn't be a fun game, but I think people were hoping for the big DK game to follow up something like Tropical Freeze, or maybe take it in a new direction where it's sort of a 3D Donkey Kong game, kind of similar to what we got with Kirby's Forgotten Land, where they took Kirby in sort of a new direction, right? And it paid off big time. I still think that future is there for DK. It's just maybe on the next device. And also, there was no Metroid Prime 4. So I wasn't expecting Metroid Prime 4. I kind of think that's lining up as a cross-gen title. And the fact that we may have just seen the last Direct, believe it or not, that's solely focused on this current Switch system. Looking to next year, maybe Nintendo goes all the way to March before they do another Direct, and that's where they start talking a bit more about their next system, and it's just kind of part of the Direct along with the current Switch. Very, very possible to see that. And that's my biggest takeaway from this Direct at this time. What it really told us is that we are indeed on the road to Nintendo's next system. This really, looking at the Direct and what they presented to us, tells me that Nintendo internally is definitely almost all hands on deck focused on their next system. And that could be good in the sense that we should expect a very strong launch year for the system in terms of games. It made sense for Nintendo after what they saw with the Switch, where, yeah, a lot of games moved from the Wii U to the Switch. I'm thinking of something like Mario Odyssey and Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. Well, that's still released on the Wii U. Clearly, when they started developing it, it wasn't like, oh, this is going to be our big Switch game. It shifted a bit behind the scenes as they kind of eliminated the Wii U gamepad from being a big part of that game and instead focused on it releasing alongside of their new system. So I think that's kind of where we are right now, a very strange in-between period. And they have Tokyo Game Show. They wanted to have a direct where they did showcase a lot of third-party games that were definitely playing into Tokyo Game Show, right, with some of these titles. And yeah, there were a couple there was a farming game there, right? There was at least one. I think Eastward got DLC where you can do farming and management and that sort of thing. I guess at least there were some unique indie titles, we can say. So there's at least that. But for Nintendo, nothing earth-shattering, nothing really, really big. I guess Paper Mario fans at the end got something to get really, really hyped about, but at the end of the day, it is indeed a remaster. So it's not like a big original title necessarily. But I will admit I am happy for a lot of the fans because I've seen you guys ask for this game for years now. Like I don't know, the past 4 or 5 years I've seen this thing being asked for. And really, if you look at it on eBay, Paper Mario on the GameCube, trust me, I know, it's over $100 for it complete. So you can, I guess, emulate it, but if you wanted to have like the actual original experience on the GameCube necessarily, it's going to cost an arm and a leg at this point. But that'll be fun when that one comes out. I think it's 2024. So maybe that launches like summertime or so, and then of course we'd be in the build up to Nintendo's next system that I believe is still launching holiday 2024, which is one of the reasons I wouldn't be shocked if Nintendo's next Direct played into the idea of finally revealing it. In fact, that could be at the end. That could be their one more thing, is their official reveal of either the name, what it looks like, maybe even a game, and then their plans going into the end of 2024. So while I know people are, I see it right now on social media and stuff, disappointed with what they saw, I think that there is some big things in motion right now at Nintendo behind the scenes. And unfortunately, the focus coming off of this current system going on to the new one is, well, the Direct is kind of the product of that. But hey, maybe you weren't disappointed with the Direct. Let me know down below in the comments, and I will, as I mentioned, be covering all of this going line by line for each announcement tomorrow. And I mean, there were some interesting ones in there. It was fun to see, for example, Tomb Raider 1 through 3 getting a remaster, and you can jump between the old and new graphics on the fly. I don't know, kind of a fun thing there. But thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.